Home at Last is really the story of how I was sent away to boarding school on my 8th birthday in 1968, how I experienced a profound sense of abandonment and exile, and how during the last few years I've come to terms with that boarding school pain and have discovered a journey of healing, not only for myself but for other people as well. I've written Home at Last really for very personal reasons first and foremost, because in 2012 I had a major car wreck, metaphorically speaking, when my marriage broke up and I got divorced. And I realized that for pretty well 30 years I've been relating to my first wife without any real emotional engagement, and that I'd also related to my children in that same detached way. And I wanted to get to the bottom of why I was so emotionally disengaged. And I realized that when I was 8, in the trauma of that first year being sent away to prep school, like many other ex-boarders, I shut down emotionally and I never really re-engaged until a few years ago. So I really wrote the book to try and come to terms with my own story first and foremost. I think the uniqueness of Home at Last is this. There are other books about boarding school pain, but Home at Last is written from a faith-based perspective. I was really struck by the story of Scrooge when I began to write Home at Last. And I realized for the first time that Ebenezer Scrooge had been a boarding school orphan. He'd been left as a child, as the Ghost of Christmas Past reveals. He'd been left as a child solitary and neglected at his prep school. And this, according to Dickens, was one of the main foundations for Scrooge's later personality, which was hugely dysfunctional. But Scrooge's healing came as a result of help from heaven. So what I'm bringing to the table with Home at Last is a faith-based approach. I think this book is important right now because in our climate, in our social climate, there is a much greater openness in terms of people owning their pain of boarding school years. So we've got many, many more people in the public eye, whether they're in show business or in politics or in any other culture or sphere of culture, who are coming out and saying that they were wounded. So I think that this is an opportune moment for talking about it from a faith-based perspective. I hope that Home at Last will have a big impact, especially in the realm of leadership. It's often been said that hurting people end up hurting people, but what if healed people end up healing and helping people? There's been a lot of work on wounded leaders, particularly by Nick Duffel, leaders who have been to boarding school and who are leading out of pain and therefore leading in a certain way dysfunctionally. I would really hope and pray that Home at Last will be used to bring the healing of boarded hearts to particularly leaders in our society, so that our nation and other nations can be radically transformed through functional and empathic leadership.